Yeah.
Things have happened. Dun dun dun. If I would have had that Law and Order music, like the dun 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 or whatever thing, I would have done it.
Yep.
I think we
suit taken off the internet, but yes.
I think we'll give credit to ourselves, although this was very obvious. Was it last week we're talking about, or maybe it was even this week? I can't even remember. Weeks just don't matter anymore. We're like, hey, there should be like Apple invites going out for their iPhone event, and then here we are. They tossed out the 5 golden rings or whatever they are, 4 golden rings.
5 golden rings. Yeah. Good. This is how it is every fall. It's tough. There's all these new products.
Mm-hmm.
This year is the worst one ever. Get new consoles, right?
Yeah, the new consoles I think is kind of like the cherry on top.
It's just an additional layer of terribleness, as far as my wallet is concerned.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in what respect?
Yeah. Well, I will say, I think I mentioned this before. Like, one of the very difficult things about this year, aside from the obvious, for me, just from like a job perspective, is, PC makers have like many events now.
Yeah.
And like, I miss some of them because I'm just too busy. I have multiple events, et cetera, et cetera. And then you hear back from, they actually get kind of testy with me. They're like, hey, we noticed you didn't join us on the call the other day. And it's like, dude, like you had 17 events in 2 weeks. Like, sorry. But obviously most of the side effects of the pandemic are mostly terrible, but there were some positive side effects as well. Remote work is going to be much more of a thing. That's kind of cool for people. But yeah, a lot of stuff. Just a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So that's happening, I think Tuesday. Is that October 13th?
13th. Yeah. Cause obviously you're going to launch the 12 on the 13th. Apple. It's kind of weird they did this. Why wouldn't you do the 12th?
Yeah, it's a Monday.
I know, but that would have been fun.
And it's not like if they're doing like they've done every other last one. It's just a video they just hit play.
Yeah,
like
you can put it out on any day. Like, that would be the cute little signal to people. Like, we all know that's what they're going to talk about. But I mean, that would have been fun.
Yeah. So speculation is that those AirTags are going to be showing up too.
Yep.
Put those out there. Put a new phone. I don't think it's going to be the Mac event. I think that's like until November to whatever.
Yeah. So they're doing the same thing. And when you think about it, that's what I just complained about. They're kind of spreading stuff out. Yeah. Like, I think Apple often will have 2 events in the fall, honestly. But it seems like, now they're going to have 3, I guess. I mean, whatever. But I don't know. It's just weird how much of this stuff there is. Every day you wake up and you're like, I wonder what's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next event?
Yep. And then the sort of major bombshell that we'll see where it goes to, which Paul put a very, I don't know, like 1940s-ish looking graphic up on the front page.
Great. That literally is what the report looks like.
Yeah. It's the House. It was the House, correct? Came out and said, House Judiciary Committee came out and said, hey, all the tech companies minus Microsoft, which they've got their own issue now, coming out.
Yeah.
Microsoft's issue stuff. We'll just hit on that real quick. They're getting probed, if you will, for trying to diversify their leadership.
Not what you thought.
Not antitrust, but like.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
right. I have that. I probably should write that up. That's a weird one.
It's a very weird. I tweeted
at the most diverse time in its history, someone has questioned Microsoft's diversity. Let's let our Indian CEO address this question. Are you serious?
The funny thing is, not funny thing, but also who got nailed or hit by that is Wells Fargo, which...
Because they only hire like old guys with bushy mustaches.
Well, the number one requirement is that you have to have a wagon wheel in your house at some point.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't look like Yosemite Sam, don't even walk through the door.
There's rabbits in here?
Yeah.
Anyway, so basically all the companies got found. Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google got, accused or initially accused of whatever, exploiting their powers, if you will. And then the House, the majority opinion is saying like, yep, they did. And some more than others. But
by the way, even the minority opinion says that. The only real difference, because I got a couple of people like, what about the minority opinion? Yeah, what about it? It's those guys aren't the ones who are going to, make law. They're the minority, but both sides agree actually. And it was a bipartisan thing that these companies all have monopolies and they're all abusing their monopolies. And the only way they kind of differ is about the proposed remedies. Um, and God, there's so much nonsense in our comments from people who, I don't understand how Apple has a monopoly. They only have 13%, blah, blah, blah. No, they don't. Actually, they have 60 something percent in the United States, which is where this applies.
Applies.
People just all over the map. They have no idea what they're talking about. These guys are a gatekeeper to over 50% of all mobile transactions. I'm sorry, but like as the house said, they have a monopoly on the App Store, and it's a huge problem because, like I said, they're gatekeepers. But Amazon, Apple, Facebook's the one whatever. But then again, they did arguably undermine our democracy in the last election. So go Facebook, and also Google. In case you didn't think those guys were important, it's like, I'm not on social media. Who cares?
Yeah.
The Russians disagree. So anyway, yeah, they all. So we'll see what comes out of this. I mean, I have to say, and someone pointed this out in the comments too. Well-written report, by the way. It's very lengthy. It's like 450 pages ish long. It's a lot of reading, but they really kind of stepped through it, and they also detailed all of the research they did, the number of documents, people they spoke with, and you can't say it's a surface level investigation. Like they really went at it. Very interesting conclusion. So, as far as the remedies, I actually, how do I say this? I'm not sure. It's too early, but I never really seriously considered breaking any of these companies up. The only time that's ever come up where I sort of thought, maybe, was there's been talk about taking away acquisitions from companies. Now there's talk about freezing acquisitions until we figure out what's going on with these guys. But someone was talking about Instagram and WhatsApp that Facebook also owns.
Yeah.
And cutting those off. And of course, since that happened, Facebook has been racing to integrate these things further to make that more and more difficult. It was kind of like the Internet Explorer strategy that Microsoft had. But breaking up, what would you like? I don't think there's anything that Apple would have to. Apple didn't make any major like if Apple had purchased Sonos maybe or something like that. I guess they'd purchased Beats. Maybe you could make that argument. I don't know, but. I'd have to really think about that. Google. I mean, were you going to take away ad? What was the thing they bought?
Whatever AdSense is now.
Yeah, but whatever it was before, DoubleClick or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that was over a decade ago, right? I mean, it was a long time ago. I don't know. I guess you could split up the company so that the search is separate from all the other stuff, which is a lot like what they were talking about with Microsoft back in the day. The other stuff disappears. I mean, search is what makes those businesses exist. If they didn't have the search ad revenue, Gmail, G Suite, Google Photos, whatever you care to mention, couldn't exist. Like those as standalone. Well, now maybe some of them could, but I mean, they could never have happened otherwise.
Yep, those aren't decisions. The one interesting proposal I saw tossed out for Apple. And this is, again, just, Twitter lawyers or whatever you want to call them, firing back and forth. But this one actually somewhat seemed interesting. It'd be to, one, allow third-party app stores with that. That one's kind of given. But the other one was that Apple charges no transaction fee until you make $100,000 in sales.
Interesting. So this would just help the smaller guys.
Yeah, and then after that, then they get an X%. And I was like, that one kind of...
I had made a list, and I'm not going to be able to recite it off the top of my list ahead of the things I thought Apple should have to do. I don't forcing Apple to have a second app store or whatever on their platform to me seems that's the put a Pepsi in the can of in the 6-pack of Coke thing. It seems weird to me. The problem for Apple, like I said, is they're the gatekeeper, and they just abuse it so badly. They charge a 30% fee on all transactions. They force developers that have subscriptions and third-party services to put them in the app now, which is crazy. They force apps and app makers to use their own in-app payment system. They're getting a cut at like every possible way. And the thing is, like, there are a lot of people who believe like, well, it's Apple's platform, they can do whatever they want. And it's really not that simple. Apple's App Store infrastructure is completely paid for by hardware sales. It is literally what Google does with search. That's what pays for everything. There is no real out-of-pocket cost for this anymore. It exists to support the hardware sales, the hardware sales, which are 40 to 50% margins pay for this. Like it's paid for. They act like there's like, oh, these guys want to get on a platform for nothing. No, you have the only way they can get on your platform. They want to be on your platform. You're over 50% of all mobile usage in the United States. You literally have a stranglehold on this. Like there's no reason for Apple in many ways to collect anything. Like I don't, but I'm not crazy. Like if it's fair, that's fine. I mean, I think there should be a standard across digital stores, we'll call them, for the types of fees you can charge. I'm like I said, Apple should get something. I'm not, but most people agree, and by most people, I mean, again, I'm not talking like majority of idiots on Twitter. I mean, people who have an understanding of how financial markets work and so forth. Like Apple's fees are like 10x what they should be, like based on how things work, because they are in that store both the Walmart and the MasterCard, but they're also the U.S. currency because you only have one way to pay, like, and it's their way. You know what I mean? So they charge these fees on top of forcing you to use their payments. It's crazy. Like the whole thing is, it's a giant funnel for your money where you flush the toilet and all the money comes out in Cupertino. That's why there's a giant hole in the middle of the building. It's for the money to fall into.
Their invite looks like a toilet. For
so
the event.
Does their corporate campus. It's a giant toilet lid. If you open that thing up, there's money inside.
I'd like to have one of those toilets.
So I'm just saying.
I would like to have one of those toilets. That would be
a
just
money toilet.
Reach in there and just throw
Hold
some
on,
money.
I need a couple extra bucks. I'm gonna go. Go to the bathroom.
Gonna go to the Bank of Lou.
Yeah, the Bank of the Lou. Yeah.
Anyways, continuing on with the SMB interview series here, we have another it's just another segment of an interview you did with Andy, and he was talking about how just another small company where you kind of come in and the CEO is doing it all and they're starting to grow up. And we'll play this real quick.
Yeah, we're like with the SharePoint stuff is kind of interesting because they're learning new workflows where traditionally it was they did everything manually and painstakingly. Like I said, they came from an owner being really close to the company, and this is how they started when they didn't know any better. Sure. Now they're starting to be forced to take that next step, or at least getting into tools that have it available.
And I think the key there is that learning. Actually, we're exposed to this as well here at BWW Media Group, is that we have a lot of tools available to us, but we're not exposed to them all the time. And that's honestly a challenge because it's like, hey, we have a workflow, but it could be a hell of a lot better if we just maybe looked at what else was in that Office 365 bucket that we're paying for every month. Yes, Basecamp.
Brad and I, just so people know, we fight the good fight inside the company. We're trying.
Yeah. We are.
I just want once again to express my jealousy of Andy Kraft. That was the guy works for my managed service provider in his office. Look at my sad background and then look at how awesome his office looks. That's really that. And did I flinch when he said SharePoint? I don't remember.
Were we at Shift Happens when you made everybody angry about SharePoint or something?
That was
like that?
We were in the Netherlands. Was that
Netherlands?
No, it was the Netherlands. Remember that was actually really funny. I did kind of a Rodney Dangerfield thing. I made fun of SharePoint, and then there was some grumbling. And I said, "How many of you guys are like SharePoint guys?" And like literally, like 85% of the room raised their hand, and I was like, "You."
They were just lighting pitchforks or tiki torches back there to come
exactly
storm the stage. Yeah,
that was delete throwback exit.
Back when we could travel and drink beer sitting around a church.
Oh, that was wasn't that the best location on earth?
It was because all we did.
Best.
Like, for people who don't understand, this is quite literally how it was. There's a church. Well, this is like many European cities. There's a church, and then there's just
right in the middle of the town. Like it's
there's just circles around it. And all we did, we started at one bar. We'll just say 3 p.m. on the clock, and each day we just kind of worked our way around the clock until we got back to 3 p.m., which had the best Havana Cuban rum, and we drank all of it.
I know. I love that place. I go there again and again. I've been there a couple of times since,
but not this year.
Not this year.
Is it so? My wife and I were talking about this, or actually I was talking to my wife. I don't think she was listening. So how many years has it been that you've been to Europe, and how?
Oh, 15 or 16.
Yeah.
For home swaps, you mean? Yeah. 15 or 16, I don't remember. I think 2000.
Yeah.
Maybe 5. So I guess that would be 15. I don't know.
It's the first time in like 15 years that you haven't left.
Yep. Yeah, we went to North Carolina. That was.
Yeah, The Paris of the East.
The Paris of the Mid Atlantic. Yeah.